Ledbetter lessons.
Okay, so we are going to master the move steps block. Now to use the move steps is pretty simple. What it does is whatever direction we're facing, so say we're facing in this 45-degree angle, then it will move whatever we have here of steps in that direction. So in this case, we're going to move 140 steps in that direction. So let's click that and find out. Okay, so we know that the length of this line is 140. And we can double check that is for sure the case, and that we'll move this back. I have a block down here to reset it, so go to 0, 0. So what we'll do is we'll actually change our direction to 90, and we will click this move 140 steps, right? So we know again that we moved 140 steps in the X direction, completely in the X direction, and we see that that's the value here. So always the length of our line is going to be 140. So we'll move back and we'll do it in the Y direction as well. So we'll move that, face it straight up, put a 0 in there, and then we'll click the move block. And there you go. So now the Y equals 140. So we see that the length is always 140, or whatever we put in the steps block. Now, whenever we clicked this on a 45-degree angle, did you notice what the X and the Y values were? So when I do this, you see here that it's only a fraction of that 140 value that is in the X direction. So we only go out, so it says 99 here, down here I'll show you, 99 in the X, and that's basically where we are here. So each one of these grid points is 20. So this is 20 wide, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So just about 100 to here, and then another 20, 40, so 140 out to here. So here we see that we're at this 99 point. So we only moved 99 in the X direction, and the same thing in the Y direction, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. So this is 100 here, and that's basically we're at the 99 at that point. Okay, so now how does all this work? We're going to get into it if we're going to be mastering this block, right? Now, I'm not going to go into trigonometry in detail, but there's two things that you need to understand. Is that when we take the sine, this is a math function, when we take the sine of the angle or the direction, this tells us how much we need to move in the X direction. So sine equals X. So sine equals how much in the X direction. And then the cosine over here, you see as we get to the next part down below, we see that if we take the cosine of the direction, it's going to tell us how much Y we need to move in the Y direction. So you need to remember those two things, and that's pretty much it. So cosine equals Y direction. So cosine equals Y, sine equals X. So now, for some reason my pen's gone crazy. Okay, so now that we understand that, let's go back to our center point, and we have this 45-degree angle. So let's see, when I set my variable to what the sine of 45 is, you'll see it come up here. So I've already clicked it before, and we see that the sine of that angle is 0.70. So that's basically 70% of this 140 value is what we need to move in the X direction. So when I do that, I'm going to set my X to the sine of the direction, so sine of 45, and I'm going to multiply it by that 140 steps. So let's click that, and perfect. So you see how that put us basically exactly at the coordinate that we want to be at. So if you go up here, you see where we ended up at this 99 right here, and you notice that X equals 99. That's actually what our value is. So we moved to the right location, and our angle here is 45 degrees. That little circle is a degree mark. Okay, so that's how we figure out how much we needed to move in the X direction to get to that coordinate. Now, for the Y direction, let's go back to 0, 0. This block here does 0, 0. Now for the y direction, the cosine, since we're 50% in the x and 50% in the y, it's actually going to be equal to what our x was, but I'll click that. And the cosine of the direction is 0.70. So again, 70%. So now when I set my y to the cosine of the direction times 140, it's going to move us up basically that 70% of the 140 in the y. So let's click that. So there you are. So again, it moves us up to 99. So if you look at our value in the y, it's 99. And that's exactly where we want to be in the y coordinate direction. Okay, so pretty cool. So you've already understand that sine tells us how much in the x and cosine how much in the y. And it returns a value between 0 and 1. So if I was to actually move this, say pointing 100%, so in the x direction, it's not pointing in the y up or down in any way, it's just pointing completely to the right. Now, if I was to check out the sign, which was for the x, you'll see that it'll equal 1. Because that means that I will multiply that 140 by 1, so all of it will be in the x direction. Now we'll go back to our 0, 0 point, and I'll set my x to the sine of 90 now, and you'll see that it will move all the way out to the end and the 140 in that direction. So all of the magnitude was applied in the x direction. Now we'll go back to our 0, 0 point, and we'll see this also in the y direction. So let's point this completely straight up. So all of the arrow is pointing straight up, nothing to the right, nothing to the left. When we set my variable for the cosine, which is the y, you'll see that it's a 1 here. But because there's nothing in the x direction, if we go here to check out what the sine of 0 is, how much do we need to apply to the x direction? You see that it equals 0. So when I multiply this, my sine of the direction is 0. So 0 times 140 means that I'm not going to move at all in the x direction. But 1, the cosine of the direction in the y, 1 times 140 means that I'm going to move 140 steps in the y. So let's just see where it moves in the y here. So there you go. It moved up 140 steps, and you can see the 140 down here. Okay, so now we understand how to do those two parts there, right? The two parts of the functions. So now, if I go at a 45-degree angle, so it was the 50-50, and then I set my x and my y at the same time, we should end up at the exact same location that the move block ended up. So we're taking the sine of 45, which we can see, well, the sine and the cosine of 45 degrees is the same, so it's going to be 0.70. So I take 0.70 times the 140, that's how much I want to move over the x, and then I'll do the 0.70 times 140, that's how much I want to move the y, and we'll click that block. And let me erase all the stuff so you can see that we did in fact end up at the same location as the move block. So we're almost there. We have almost recreated the move block from scratch, but there's one last thing in that the move block doesn't always start at the 0, 0 coordinate position. It kind of works like the change where it adds on to its current position. So in order to do that, I just made my own move block down here. And with the move block, whenever I click this move block, it will pass in this 140 value, which was kind of the same as what we started out with, right? We said, I want to move 140 steps, so I'm passing in my 140. And what I do is I add the sine of the direction times that 140, and all I do is I take this and I add it on to my current x position. And then the same thing in the y. I take my current y position, and then I add on that amount that I needed to add in the y position. So now whenever I click the move block, you should see that this will move exactly to that same location. Perfect. So it moves and works exactly. So this is exactly 100% like the move block right here. Now just to see that that's so, we're going to test it. So with this little function here, I repeat 36 times, and we change our angle by 10 every time. So let's, yeah, we can, I'll put it to 0. Sure. We'll do something like that. Actually, we'll do it 90. Okay, so now we're going to add 10 to it every single loop, and then we're going to move 10 steps. So we're going to be in a different location, and it's going to keep on drawing in that direction. So 36 times 10, that's 360. That's a circle, so you should see a circle drawn here. Okay, so that's what the move block does. Now, if we programmed it exactly the same, our block, then we should see the exact same thing happen, right? So let's change the color here so we know that we're not drawing the same thing. And you'll see that this, in fact, is the exact same as the move block. So there you go. So I think with that, I think you can say that you have mastered the move block. The nice thing is that you don't need to know all of the trigonometry for the move block, but you will need to know trigonometry to be a good game programmer. So this is a nice introduction, a good start for that. So yeah, so you are now a master of the move block. We'll see you in the next tutorial.